Johnston High School, ever since our implementation of our learning management system with Moodle, I've become really interested in how I can provide resources to my students online that they can access at home for at-home learning. And that helps students who need to refresh what we talked about in class, and it also helps students who are absent from those days in class. And that's how I started to progress my online learning instruction, was more of as a support for my students in addition to what I give them in the classroom. So luckily at Johnston, we decided to go one-to-one iPad, and that has increased the ability to expand that to my students. And Johnston has also started the blended learning cohorts. So with our blended learning cohorts, we are in a small group. They're all learning together how to incorporate new strategies for blended learning, and that's through the courses that we have with you. And the intent there is to develop not only online content that is a support for our students, but also to develop maybe more of a hybrid type of course where students don't meet during every single day of the week. We might see them 1 or 2 days, and then they might have some online learning that's their responsibility outside of class. So I'm currently progressing towards a blended learning course, but I do not currently teach one. The decision was made because it helps the students, and anything that you can do that helps students obviously is something that teachers should be adopting into their pedagogy. So if I can provide my students supports when I'm not there, that's really important to me. And that's where blended really started to become more important to me, was when I realized how effective I could reach my students in an online setting. That pushed me into the desire to incorporate more blended learning into my classroom. The blended cohort that we have at Johnston is a group of teachers, typically from different content areas, that have decided that they would like to pursue more education and receive more support in adding blended content to their classrooms. So it was approximately a year's worth of coursework. I think it was 4 courses that we did to learn about why blended is important and how blended is utilized throughout the state or throughout the nation even. And then different strategies for how you can make content online, how you can assess online, and lesson planning in an online setting were lots of the focus parts of that blended cohort. And it's nice because there's other teachers that I have at my district and in my building that I can talk to about their experiences, because we're all in different parts of the process. We have some teachers that are just starting a blended this year, some that have had blended for 2 years, and myself, who will be starting hopefully within the next year. So we have a team of people that we can talk to and have questions and conversation with surrounding that blended content. The learning management system, Moodle, is a place where I've developed content and interactives and maybe some types of formative assessment, embedded quizzes. So if I have a day where students are working independently, they might be doing what is essentially blended learning within my classroom, where I can also have time to pull other students aside and work with them. Then students that are absent can also go and look at that content. And then Johnston also has something called virtual sub. So on absent days, we, instead of getting a sub to be in our classroom, we will email our students the expectations for what they're supposed to be doing. And my blended training has been fantastic for setting up my virtual sub lessons, because I am there essentially in the blended setting. The students get all their content. I can interact with them still, even if I'm at a meeting and not actually in the classroom at that point in time. So those are 2 of the places you'll see blended instruction currently in my classroom, even though I don't have one of the blended hybrid classes. They check in, they use their iPads, and they pick a place that they want to do their work. And then when they get to that place in the school, they check in with the QR code. So this building has a lot of commons areas, and we have the cafeteria. So they might say, I'm here, I'm checking into the cafeteria. They get to the cafeteria, they QR code in, and then our campus monitors will have a list of who QR coded into that place. So they should know, hey, we've got 10 students in here that are from Burns' zoology class, and this is where they are. There's about 4 choices I think that they have. They can go to the commons. There's red, yellow, or yellow, blue, green commons. They can go to the cafeteria, and they can go to the auditorium commons. We have 2 campus monitors that wander the halls, and they know what's going on in the building. So they will monitor whether or not students are being rowdy or if there's issues of that nature. I'd say benefits that I see is students who need help have another place to go for help versus having to make time to come in and talk to me. I can just email them back and say, why don't you go to this page that I have set up that explains this for you? And if you still have questions, then we can set up a face-to-face meeting. So I think it frees up some of my time, and it frees up some of the students' time because they have busy lives and they can't always come in before after school or during our open office hours times. So they can take care of their learning on their own time as well. So that's one of the big benefits. Another benefit that I see in it is the ability to have virtual sub days. Like I just think that's a great thing for our school to have the opportunity to have, and for the students to have the freedom of getting their work done on their own time and being held accountable to learning tasks when somebody's not in the room with them are big benefits. My zoology class, we don't really have a textbook for. So I can't, if a student is gone from my classroom, I can't say read chapter 5 because that's what the assessment's over. I just can't. They have to look at things and interact with things because everything we do is hands-on or manipulatives. And I can model many of those things online, or I can take pictures of the lab setups, but I can't give them a book. So Blended replaces a lot of that. Go to the book and read this chapter for me, and it fits my purpose for my learning much better than textbook would for students who are struggling or absent a lot or at risk. I am quite the perfectionist, so I need to hold back expectations of myself. I need to make sure that I'm trying to do like a unit at a time right now and make sure that I get something that I am happy with and confident in before I move on to the next step. So my expectation is that I take it slow and I get my units done piecewise. And that's been important for me for my own stress load. Expectations for the students with this is days when they are responsible for themselves, holding them accountable, and how do you manage accountability with an online setting, and developing those expectations of when I am not with you, you are still responsible for doing this work, and how do we incorporate that into a standards-based grading when we were really not grading homework. So I can't give them points for just clicking through the tutorial. So just setting up why you need to do this, and these are my expectations for your performance and what this is going to get you, I think is an important step that I've been experiencing this year as I've incorporated blending. I think my big takeaways are that sometimes teachers get threatened by online learning, but I don't think it's going to replace us. I think that we are here to drive it. Like we can't have online learning without educators. I also think that this is going to help all of our students, because anytime you can give students access to learning on their own speed or at their own time is a benefit to them, because we're having more problems with attendance and mental health issues, and all sorts of things that are causing our students to be in school and out of school at different time periods. And it's always been very challenging to get them caught up. And my biggest takeaway with Blended is that it's a huge opportunity to keep those kids in their education, even if they're not in the classroom. So I've had kids who have been hospitalized for a week-long period, and my Blended stuff, I can just say, well, you need to go do this module and read through this and complete this task. And it's all in an online setting, and they can get my teaching the exact same way I would in the classroom, just going through what I've written for them online. If I'm going to go to the full class setting, I need to really think about accountability more. It is a daunting task to think that we can't give them points for clicking through and completing things, because we're switching towards you can only put points in for a full assessment of a content, and the kids need to know that clicking through and doing the activities and watching the clips is important for their learning and obviously to reach the content for the assessment. But I don't think lots of kids have made that epiphany yet, that they need to do the steps to get the understanding. So if we don't assign points to them, I really need to wrap my mind around how to motivate them to do it and how to ensure that what the assessment is directly correlated to what I've provided them online so that they can see the correlation between, oh, I didn't do this. The consequence is now my summative assessment is insufficient. And I think that's tricky because you can have students that could probably do some of our summative assessments without going through the work. And is that a problem? Is it okay that they didn't do the work if they could do the assessment to start with? And that's a hard thing to wrap your mind around because we're used to making them do everything. I think something that our school needs to ponder more is the use of a blended learning setting for some of our at-risk students. I know that we've been targeting blended for more of our proficient students who want to free up some time and to have the ability to transport themselves around. But I know a lot of our case studies that we looked at with you, blended has been used to help some of the struggling learners, the kids that do have those attendance issues or who do not do well in traditional settings. And our school district uses Play-Doh, which is blended learning, but it's managed through a different user and it's not teachers and it's not as personal as one of your staff members running a blended setting for your students who are local and you understand all of your standards. So I would say that that's something that I think we should look into, and it'd be an interesting thing for our school to pursue with the number of students that we have that we're putting into alternative placement. What if we could service them in-house? That's one of the big things that I would like to see with our blended learning.